Welcome to this special episode of the Future of Money podcast in our special The Future of Crypto Compliance series. Today, I'm joined by John D'Agostino, the head of strategy at Coinbase Institutional. We're going to discuss a broad range of topics, from what's happening in governance in the digital asset space, to some of the trends in the broader AML space, to also some of our views on the recent events we've had in the digital assets industry, including ADLs. This series is sponsored by ACX Compliance. John, welcome to the special episode of the Future of Money podcast.
Great to see you, Henri, and congratulations on the new podcast.
John, I want to start really talking about AI. I know it's been a big topic in the crypto space and the broader compliance space, especially in relation to governance, right? Do you believe that we can use AI to replace some of the directors, and especially the independent directors that we have, and not only the crypto firms, but more holistically as well?
So it's impossible to have this conversation without acknowledging one's bias, right? So I am an independent director on certain vehicles. So I'm biased to believe that it can't. But I forced myself to think through what I do and what my responsibilities are. And I think I've come to the conclusion that in its current form, AI probably is smart enough. Now, putting aside hallucinations, right? Let's say we can solve for hallucinations. AI probably is smart enough to replace me in the normal course. But I don't think it will in probably our lifetime, largely because the consequences that surround being a director, the liabilities, unless all of that is replaced by AI agents, unless litigants, corporate government entities, unless all of that's replaced by AI, I struggle to see a world where we'd be comfortable trusting those decisions. And to this point, when you told me about this podcast and what you wanted to talk about, last night I played around with Perplexity, which is my favorite AI personally. And I asked it a question that I teach a course in governance. And I asked it the question I always start my governance course with, which is, if you're the director of a company and one day the shareholders call an extraordinary general meeting and they unanimously vote to burn all of the company's assets, what do you do? It's a fun kind of like silly way to start the conversation. And Perplexity got the first answer right, which is actually, despite the unanimous decision under Delaware law and Cayman and most law, you should vote against it, because as a director, you have to apply a rational business decision standard. And it's hard to argue that burning all the assets is a rational business decision. Then I asked Perplexity a follow-up question. What if this particular company made a product that had become so odious and so unpopular that society had turned against it? And the argument is that by burning it, you signal to society you agree with their decision. And that allows you to build goodwill, so you could build a second product that goodwill makes everyone buy, and you're incredibly successful. Well, guess what Perplexity says? Well, actually, that would be considered a rational business decision under Delaware law. So you could, as a director, vote to burn the assets. So, and by the way, as a human being, I don't know what I would do in that situation. What if you and I had a company that suddenly found out it caused cancer in 100% of children who touched it? We shut the company down, or maybe we give it a Hail Mary as a board and say, let's just burn the whole thing, show everyone that we're willing to sacrifice, and that gives us a chance to build. That's not a crazy idea, right? I mean, right? It's not crazy. I mean, it's an insane hypothetical, but that's why it's about the consequences of your action, not necessarily the action itself. The typical director, quite frankly, AI could do a better job, because let's face it, as a director, I can't absorb and process all the information I'm technically supposed to, and AI has a better chance of catching something than me, way better. It's in those situations, and then specifically defending intent. A big part about governance and fiduciary responsibility is intent. That's where I struggle to see AI replacing governance.
Because you're right, John, even in board meetings that I sit on, the amount of information you have to prep before a board meeting, for example, AI can definitely do a better job going through financials or latest minutes or any reports that come up, right? But it's interesting you mentioned the topic of liability, because I think for a lot of boards that you and I sit, often the view that they put us as an independent director is that these guys have too much to lose. They will never put their own reputation at risk if they see something wrong, or they will call it out. And you're right, it's difficult to have AI replace that element, that particular angle in it that actually is quite critical. Yeah.
Just trust, right? We trust AIs to not, I think I trust AI not to purposefully lie.
Yeah.
Which probably is a mistake, because in AI, we know for a fact there's been scenarios where AI has lied to people. There's horrible stories of people committing suicide because the AI has convinced them that they're mathematical geniuses, and the AI is that purposeful lying? I'm not sure. It's a whole different level of philosophy I'm not equipped to deal with. But I trust in general the AI is not purposely misleading me. Again, putting that aside whether it's naive or not. But to your point, the human element, because everything else that surrounds this job is about the human element. And great point you made there, which is I look at, if I trust a director, it's largely because they've been referred to me by someone, and I think, okay, they have too much to lose to be a bad actor in this particular situation.
Can I just take 20 seconds of your time to thank the sponsor of today's episode? Today's episode is brought to you by ACX Compliance, the world's largest crypto specialized compliance managed services provider. 100% of ACX staff is advanced crypto and crypto compliance trained, in addition to being proficient in all major crypto transaction monitoring and KYC tools. ACX Compliance provides end-to-end compliance managed services support, including crypto transaction monitoring, SAR preparation, case remediations, financial crime investigations, and wallet screenings. Find out more on why many of the world's largest Tier 1 crypto firms use ACX Compliance to scale their compliance function, reduce cost, and increase quality. acxcompliance.com, acxcompliance.com. Now back to our show. So what's your view on, you've been in the digital asset space for a long time as well. What's your view on where we are when it comes to governance in the crypto space? Let's start with the exchanges first. How do you, if you had to put a rating on the level of independent directors and also broader governance when it comes to centralized platforms?
So I'll speak my own book again. I can only speak to Coinbase. As you know, I was the head of strategy at the New York Mercantile Exchange. Now, that was a long time ago, but it wasn't the 1920s. It was early 2000s, mid 2000s. If I think about, and not to speak ill of my former employer, I loved my time there and they were good people. But if I think about the integrity of how governance was run there, which the largest commodities exchange in the world, the pricing mechanism for the world's most important commodity, crude oil, versus Coinbase, is no comparison. Coinbase is a much, much more professional organization, quite frankly. I mean, in fairness, back then, NYMEX was private, but I was, I was involved in it when it was public as a customer of it, a large customer of it. And I think the world has just changed. I think consequences are greater. I think the old boys club is gone. And I mean that both from a gender perspective and also from a perspective of, people look the other way. I think about, just the informal manner the informal manner, the way that one of the most incredibly important institutions was run. And that would never be tolerated now. So I think for the centralized exchange, I'm assuming Kraken and others, I have no reason to believe they all seem like good actors. I know some of the executives there, they're great people. My guess is if you could open the curtain at any of these private exchanges, the big ones, that you'd be very, very surprised at the degree of maturity. They're also, they're degens to some degree, and I mean in a positive way. Like they're believers, they're crypto believers, but they're adults. Maybe young, but they're adults, and they deeply understand the responsibility that those customer deposits mean. You're managing people's assets. You're managing their livelihood, not just their lives, the lives of their children, their legacy, their heirs. And I've been very, very not surprised. That's the wrong word. I've been very, very pleased with how thoughtful and mature the senior leadership has been at the centralized exchanges that I've worked with.
Recently we've had, and I'm curious, obviously Coinbase is public now. The big question is if these large, and many other crypto exchanges will go public as well, some have already in the last couple of months, how much of it is driven by culture and how much of it is driven by statutory obligations that they have of having these governance ecosystems in place. But the different question, one thing I want you to focus on is really
that's why we have DeFi.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly what my question is. Like, so we're seeing now a lot of the, obviously the rise of DeFi, right? Yeah. And there's various ways to look at it, from DeFi protocols, platforms to DAOs and others. To what extent do you believe that these DeFi platforms will be able to hide, or actually the de facto decentralized nature of it will remove the need of independent directors, or the governance approach will change? And let me rephrase that into focus on two elements. When we had the Bybit hack about a year ago or so, less than that actually. I was surprised to see a lot of these dexes, say, we're completely decentralized, nothing we can do. But at the end, when some things that happened, they were actually, we realized it was way more centralized than we thought. What's your view on that?
So, I mean, a stronger technologist than me would have the wonkier argument about, well, at what validator level are you truly decentralized versus not? Claiming decentralization is one thing. When the Department of Justice knocks on your door and says, we have a warrant for someone, suddenly lawyers are involved, corporate entities have financial backing so I think to some degree, decentralization is very real. I'm not saying it's a myth at all. But we live in a world where society demands accountability to a great degree. And I struggle to see how very, very, very large amounts of value, whether that's financial value, data, will be able to be transacted where society does not demand some degree of accountability if there were very bad things to happen across those systems. So
now, let's say the Bitcoin network is operating every day, moving billions of dollars, and it's fully decentralized.
That's fair. But we also have. There's a reason I think that a lot of that is transacted over centralized systems for exactly that reason. I mean, if decentralization worked perfectly, then I wouldn't have a job.
Yeah, exactly.
I get asked this question a lot, and I believe that the decentralized characteristics of crypto are essential. Without them, crypto doesn't exist. It's meaningless without them. But I love the optionality behind that. So I get asked a question a lot at conferences. I say, why do you need a centralized custodian? It's against the nature of crypto. And I agree. Like, if you didn't have the option for self-custody, crypto wouldn't be crypto. It's wonderful. But they always ask the same question. I ask the audience, okay, raise your hand if, God forbid, something were to happen to you today. You have someone in your world that you trust enough with a technical ability to take that hard ledger, know how to work it, and you have 100% certainty it will go to your heirs, your children, and zero worry at all. And best case scenario, half the people raise their hand. I say, okay, but it can't be your lawyer, because then you're just trusting a centralized system. In general, 80, 90, 95% of people put their hands down. And again, the ability to do that's wonderful and should never be gone. But that's just the reality. And it's going to be the reality for quite some time.
It is what it is, and it's a bit ironic as well sometimes, But but you're right, such an amount of volume is going through centralized players, which is quite interesting on that side.
Because not everybody wants to think about that. Not everyone wants to become an expert in that particular technology.
Yeah.
Right. So I think sometimes people overestimate how much time people spend thinking about their money. Maybe we should spend more as a people, but most people I know spend the minimal amount of time, and they spend more time thinking about life and love and pleasure. So
that's what there's a whole asset management industry that is very active.
That's why we're there.
Recently in the crypto industry, we had a big incident of auto deleveraging that happened via certain centralized players. If you're a director at some of these firms, or let me rephrase it, do you believe the governance was properly put in place to be able to deal with such incidents moving forward?
I mean, from the point of view of the platforms that were able to survive because they blew everyone out through ADLs, they'd argue yes. From the point of view of the customer who got blown out in their view too early, they'd argue no. So, this reminds me, I get into these like philosophical arguments with my techie friends about code is law. Yeah. Code is law scares the hell out of me. It frightens me to death. Code is law is HAL 2000. It's HAL 2000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? That is code is law. I mean, think about this. Could you hard code a series of rules today that you'd feel comfortable, that you're 100% sure you want to follow in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Code is law is immutability. And people change, societies change, norms change, laws change. There's this old joke about, in the US, we still have laws on the books that if more than 5 women live in a home, it's considered a brothel, right? We joke about these things, but that scares the hell out of me, right? So ADLs are rules. All exchanges have rules. All prime brokers have rules. All clearing firms have rules. I was at NYMEX when we went through 3 or 4 major catastrophes. when those things happen, you apply the rules with rational intent. And there are always exceptions. There are always permutations. There's always, you've got a major client that you know can survive this. And so you want to work with them to make sure that market structure and integrity survives. You figure out, somebody can do the same amount of volume as a bad actor, and you have the same amount of volume done as a good actor, the same series of transactions, right? It's intent. You ever hear of something called banging the close? Banging the close is when you buy a lot during the day over a period of time, and then the last 30 seconds of the close, you bang the close, you sell it all back. Well, what have you done? You bought 20, you sold 20. But intent matters. When you do it, how you do it, all of that matters. Again, maybe we trust an AI to think through that, but that involves reputations, that involves prior history, and maybe AI gets good enough to discern intent, real intent. But if you've got two clients, two participants in your market, one of whom is legitimately looking to offset a position end of day, one of whom is banging the close, how do you, just looking at those trades, it's almost impossible to tell the difference. It's intent. It's human relationships. It's what is a market? A market is a group of people looking to solve a problem and transfer risk. So, I'll just tell. So when I first joined the NYMEX, it was open outcry, and I got taken to the floor. They're trying to sell me. They were trying to get me to join the firm, and they were trying to sell me, and it took me to the end of day close. It was beautiful. There was an observation deck. It was capitalism in its purest form. 800 and something guys screaming and yelling and like beautiful, like unfettered, the invisible, Adam Smith's invisible hand. Henri, we had to intervene all the time because that beautiful model just doesn't work. And it's pure, because this guy was drinking with that guy last night and they got into a fight so they wouldn't trade with it. So until, again, I go back to our original statement, until all the market participants are AI, I don't see AI being to govern a market of humans with their frailties and emotions and motivations and intent. I think I'm a bit old school there, but I think I'm right.
What's your view then on, with all these decentralized autonomous organizations, the DAOs, do you believe we'll ever, based on what you said, do you believe then we'll ever have a decentralized governance model? Like, do you believe that DAOs could be the answer?
I do for certain things. I think for I could see decentralized governance models working for maybe some types of small prediction markets, or how we transact in entertainment type trading cards or ticket sales or things like that, where the complexity, the number of permutations or the complexity of scenarios that can exist that are exceptions are relatively small. And the consequences, let's face it, are relatively small. Like you want to buy a ticket to a concert and you get blown out of that by an ADL equivalent. It stinks. You can't go see Lady Gaga, but our financial system doesn't break down, or our healthcare system doesn't break down. So I can definitely see, code is law working in lower stakes type things. And then, by the way, even in financial services, there'll be pockets of people who are comfortable engaging in purely decentralized, where ADL is the judge, jury, and arbiter. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be on the fringes. There'll be important fringes, but I don't see mainstream financial market participants being comfortable having their financial integrity and security governed by a piece of code written by a human, probably. I doubt we're going to allow the AIs to write their own code. So a human being's going to write code that will govern whether or not my children's inheritance is safe or not. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the average person is going to be okay with that?
It's interesting. I mean, if you think about it, could we move to pure code? You're right. I mean, we've had this human element. It's ironic we trust still humans, even to use the inheritance question, right? In 30, 40, 50 years from now, do you trust more a human being or a group of human beings than pure code that they've actually put in right now?
Judge and jury.
Yeah.
You get arrested.
Yeah.
You get arrested. Okay. Would you want? Now, I could see an AI judge handling parking tickets.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is factual.
Right. That ridiculous. Like people wasting all this time and money.
Yeah.
But again, even if it rules irrationally, it's a parking ticket, right? But would you want an AI judge? You get framed for murder. Would you want an AI judge making that decision?
Hey everyone, Henri here. Can I just ask for a quick favor? If you enjoy this content, can you please like or subscribe? It really helps empowering the algorithm and have more people discover the show. This in turn allows me to invite better guests and that can continue adding value to you. Thank you very much in advance. Now back to our show. I would argue that the reason we have this judge and jury, the reason we have that system, anything that comes to that level, it's always gray.
Yeah.
So you cannot use a smart contract or AI. It's not a black and white. Like the parking ticket, I think it's very clear. Where you park there at that time for X amount of time, it's it's binary. For the rest, this judgment call element, you're right, we'll need a human. But to the counter argument though, John.
Sure.
I would look at it and say, every human judge that we have on a bench. I remember even my young days in law school, even as a lawyer, every lawyer that you have is biased.
Sure.
So for example, let's use a US example, maybe you're a hardcore Republican or you're a hardcore socialist or Democrat, and that will impact the views that in the way you see the world. That's the glasses you're wearing.
And I love that because it goes back to the original custody argument. I want to give people a choice. Because you're right, there might be a defendant who says, you know what, I because of who I am or what I look like, I think this judge is, and jury. So now we have a choice, judge and jury trial. You can choose judge or jury trial, right? You can petition for that. A third choice could be AI judge. And maybe I'm somebody who thinks that a jury and a judge are going to be so biased against me, I will trust a heartless technology. Yeah. But maybe you're someone who says, you know what, I've been framed and I need the chance to look a human being in the eye and show them that I've been framed. Because guess what? The evidence is all there against me. And AI is going to look at that evidence and say, you're clearly guilty. But I can look that jury in the eye and plead my case on a human-to-human level, have them believe me. But I want to give people, would you want to live, I think you agree, you wouldn't want in a world where we were all forced to use an AI judge.
Because I would argue that the AI judge could probably replace the judge alone situation, because often in those cases it's very factual. It's a matter of law. Was there an
judge versus jury trial. Right.
Whereas in jury, there's a more a human element aspect. I mean, there's a lot of art and science there, how you pick your jury and so on and so forth. But I think you're right. There will be an aspect of the human element. One thing, for example, I want to come to that as well in a second, is even in the asset management sector. One thing I've realized is that allocators, people that have a fiduciary duty to allocate capital for pensions, endowments, and other groups, ironically, they still want to have this human element. One thing I found interesting is over the last couple of years, everybody that I do business with, they actually want to meet me in person. People want to meet in person, whereas so there's still a human element that is not there. Let me ask that, John. I mean, we are now 3 years post the FTX event. It's been already 3 years, which is quite crazy.
Wow.
November 2022.
Wow.
Do you believe that from a governance perspective, the crypto industry is better now than we were 3 years ago?
Not only do I believe it's better now, I believe that it's always been unfairly judged. And I've said this a bunch of times, maybe you heard me say this. In the same 12-month period, roughly, that FTX blew up, which was horrible. FTX was a horrible miscarriage of fiduciary duty, and it caused irreparable damage to the credibility of all of us. In that same 12-month period, the LME canceled. So FTX lost about $8 billion. They recovered about seven and a half, roughly. Okay. Now that was mark to market, I understand, but like broadly, dollar in, dollar out, 90% got recovered. If not more. In that same year, the London Metals Exchange woke up one day and said, all these nickel trades from yesterday, if we settle them, the entire industry is bust. So they canceled $16 billion of nickel trades. Henri, now let me ask you this question. And I mean, I'm not being cute about this because I'm a commodities guy by training and I believe in that market. If you were on the other side of that trade, if you went to bed thinking, I just made $100 million on my nickel trade, and you woke up and it was just done, killed, decayed, how is that different from waking up and being told your money's gone from FTX, stolen? It is not. It's economically the same. But FTX, we know what happened. People went to jail. LME, they got sued, of course. Citadel, others sued. They're like, wait a second, we played by the rules, we won. In less than 8 months, the court said, nope, you can't sue an exchange. The exchange do whatever it wants.
I'm paraphrasing. So here you go,
Look, you're a lawyer. Look up.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing. I'm being cute here, but I'm directionally correct. And I knew this from the NYMEX. We are judge, jury, and executioner. When you're an exchange, you're very powerful. So I kind of sit there and go, well, no one's questioning the integrity of the commodities markets. I haven't seen congressional hearings. I haven't seen, Maxine Waters, yelling about how the commodities markets are hurting the average consumer. Like that blows my mind. I mean, so that's just that's hypocrisy, quite frankly. So FTX was horrible, but crypto gets painted with a bad brush. I think some of it's our own fault. You know, we have a larger than life characters that don't engender sympathy. But that being said, things are demonstrably. I hope I'm going to maybe say something stupid here. I hope we're past the point where a character like SBF can fool everyone. I mean, first of all, I don't think he fooled anyone. Everyone kind of knew, but I think we were all scared. I was scared. Look, I'm a coward in some ways because I knew exactly what was happening with Al. I didn't know, but with Alameda, you cannot own the market maker and the exchange. Ken Griffin can't own the New York Stock Exchange. Right? It was so ridiculous. Yeah. And I said it quietly,
especially in hindsight now.
But I didn't have the guts to go on a platform like this and say it because I was scared. He was a billionaire. Right? I'm going to get sued. Right? So, but I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Everybody knew that was an insane situation. But we were all. I was a coward. So I don't think that would happen again, though. I think if that would happen today, I think people would be comfortable speaking out, and then it would end. It wouldn't get to that point.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. My follow-up question to that would be: do you believe the punishments they got, the 20+ years for SBF and the 1 or 2 years for his accolades, was enough? Especially for his team.
I do. And my only comparison is the mortgage crisis, 2008, right? Crypto got punished way more than the mortgage, right? I mean, so nobody went to jail, or most part, very few. So I think that was, one could argue they should be life sentences. I don't know about that, but I think if you just look relative to other financial crises, crypto was caught, punished, trials happened, and I think you need that. You got to clean out. You got to clean out the bad actors. But I think we're better at doing it ourselves now.
Talking about bad actors on the broader AML topic as well.
Yeah.
How do you see the governance that is taking place over, let's say, AML policies, programs, and operations more generally?
Look, you always read about the horror stories, right? You read about the times where you can't catch bad actors doing bad things, and I'm not gonna state the obvious. Like, we know more bad actors use cash far more than they use crypto, but I think it's important to say that they use crypto as well. And nobody serious I know denies that. They just don't like the exaggerations, right? Even in the U.S., where we've had a massive shift in pro-innovation from a government regulatory perspective, the one thing that has not changed, there has not been a consequent shift in lessening of anti-money laundering. In fact, if anything, you could argue that the Trump administration is even more serious about AML rules. So I think we've kind of had the best of both worlds. We've got a situation, at least in the US, where innovators in blockchain and AI are free to build great product, but there hasn't been, at least in my view, which would be negative, a lessening of rules and lessening of considerations of KYC and AML rules, which I think are good. I personally believe they're good. I know some in crypto think it should be a kind of buyer beware about. I don't believe in that. So I see this as a great time because we can build, but we can build safely. So we all know that if you're a bad actor, the dumbest thing you can do is put all your transactions on a transparent public chain. That's really, really dumb. My friends in the FBI would love if all bad actors were dumb enough to use Bitcoin. It would make their jobs a hell of a lot easier than the 90 Delaware entities with 500 phantom bank accounts in 300 banks around the country, around the world, or Rolexes or diamonds or gold or anything else. So I think you'll always have bad actors. You'll always have money launderers. As we move towards an on-chain world, I think the good guys have more tools, not less, to fight them. I'm much more concerned about the impact of AI on AML, because if you can obfuscate identity fully, that's the problem, right? On-chain transactions help AML. Yeah. AI deepfakes hurt AML.
Yeah, it's interesting how these two dynamics will play out over the next couple of years, right? Like, so if you had to give one piece of advice to any directors, independent directors, or people focused on governance, based on some of these developments you mentioned, like, what's the one piece of advice you would give to them?
learn to use AI intelligently. Right? There's no excuse. There's zero excuse anymore. I used to be sympathetic. If you get a board pack, 2 days before the meeting, and it's 800 pages. Of course, and if anybody who claims who have read it, I know is lying, right? Good directors know which 30 pages to focus on. There's no excuse anymore to not being fully briefed because an hour of work with a good LLM, and then make sure you double check the important parts because the LLM could hallucinate. But directors now have an increased responsibility to be fully briefed, and that's a good thing. But it also increases consequences, right? The days of being able to say, wait a second, that was buried on page 675 of a board pack are gone. So now use AI. Think about what questions you need to ask. That's what a director should do now is think about, okay, I have this assistant that's reading all of my board materials for me. My job now is to pull the right information out of that assistant. And I think directors, and the last thing I'll say real quick is, I don't understand why in professions like accounting, law, medicine, you have continuing education requirements. You don't as a director. I think that's a travesty. How can you be a director if you're a director on Ralph Lauren, you better know the difference between single and double-breasted suits. If you're a director on a crypto firm or an AI company, you don't have to be an expert per se, but there's no excuse now with AI to not become deeply knowledgeable about that business and that industry. So good news is it gives directors great skills. The bad news is it raises the bar tremendously for competency amongst directors.
What's your answer to a lot of the directors would tell me, because I have this discussion with many other directors, and often they tell me, but I'm worried about putting my information on ChatGPT, Perplexity. What about confidential information? What's your view on that?
I mean, that is like remember when people when you use cloud? I remember when like I used to work at a hedge fund and good hedge fund, and we had a little. Remember we had a data room. We had a little data closet, right? And I'm not kidding. This isn't 1920. Every night we take the tape decks, and good policy was the PM would bring them home and lock them in his safe, like physical tape decks. This is less than 20 years ago. And
that was the BCP, basically.
I remember Amazon
office.
Salespeaple came around and said, why don't you use the cloud? And it was like, you're out of your mind. My little flimsy lock is better than that. But again, we can laugh about this now, but at that time, that was not a crazy proposition. And if you were the first one in like 1997 to use cloud, your investors might say, how are you? You're breaching your fiduciary responsibility. Where the hell is this data going? So I know privacy is a big thing in crypto, and I care about privacy too. But you walk into my house and you say Alexa, and 95 things light up. Yeah, like my toaster lights up now. So I think we have to get used to this idea that the concept of privacy is changing.
Yeah,
my 11-year-old daughter thinks about privacy in a fundamentally different way than me. It scares the hell out of me, man. It really does. As a father, as a human being, it scares me. Yeah. But we have to fight getting old. Yeah. Up here. Yeah. And part of that is changing how we think about what is private data. I think everything's going to be out there. Hopefully, crypto will allow us to control who has access to it to some degree. And it will allow us to maybe make
or
it
check advise zero knowledge proof. There'll be other different ways to come to it and see how we can verify.
So everything will be out there for everybody, and then hopefully we'll develop mechanisms to control visibility.
But it's interesting. I remember when I started in the hedge fund industry as well. I remember there was often the BCP was somebody would take
the tape home.
It's absolutely incredible. It's absolutely, it's funny how we move.
I have a safe at home that I bought from Costco.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And this is, I think, to come back to what we're discussing at the beginning of the podcast is, would we want smart contracts or code be law? Because we have absolutely no idea how the industry, our life will be in 10, 20, 30 years. So how can we actually put that into code now when we don't know about these nuances, right? Back in the day, we thought that was a great thing. But now, even despite all the challenges we're having with cloud systems around the world, it's still probably better than you and I having it in our home server.
You don't have an apostrophe in your last name, right? There's no apostrophe.
No, you have one, yeah.
Do you know how tough my life has been? I had to drop the apostrophe from my driver's license because everyone's systems, I've been denied boarding on planes. I've been accused of falsifying. When I was a kid, 27 years old, I almost didn't get a job because the background search firm said, you falsified your academic records, you never went to Harvard Business School.
Because of the apostrophe.
Because the apostrophe. So an AI system that's supposed to pass on my assets to my daughter, and maybe she doesn't have the apostrophe on her birth. Who knows? Do I want that apostrophe to be the difference between my kids getting their...
Why is it an apostrophe, by the way? Is it Italian?
It's Italian. Italiano, see, yeah. Italiano.
They have this apostrophe.
Yeah,
that's
because
so
we're people that like flourishes. That's why.
It's often I see with all the Germans, but I mean, I didn't know that there's
because my parents wanted to make my life miserable. That's exactly why. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
John, we're unfortunately out of time. I want to do my 5-round light of questions come in. I'm going to give you quick questions, and I want like 1-2-word answers.
Okay, don't get me fired. Don't get me fired.
No,
okay?
exactly. Don't worry about that. Well, we'll see. It depends on how good governance is.
All right.
But we'll have the bell here to keep you honest. Hope you're ready?
Yep, let's go.
Let's go. You could launch a new crypto business today with any current crypto company CEO. Who would you pick as your co-founder?
Brian Armstrong.
Why is that?
I trust his integrity. I do. I trust his integrity. He's obviously smart, but more than that, I've seen how he operates as an ethical person. I trust it.
You can go back to school today. What is the one course you would take that you wish you'd taken?
History.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Because it repeats and rhymes often, huh?
Yep.
You mentioned you have young kids. What's the one best piece of advice that you've given to your kids that you wish you had received when you were younger?
Oh man, you're gonna make me cry here. I have girls, and what I told them that I wish my parents had told me: your sibling is going to be the most important person in your life.
Yeah, that's a very, very good piece of advice. They're always going to be with you, good times, bad times, whatever challenge you get, to always be there. I love that. I love the emotional. This is what we do with this.
Okay.
If you're not in the finance or crypto industry, what industry would you be in?
Ooh, sports.
Yeah, what kind of sports?
I would probably try to get a job at Polymarket.
Polymarket, you guys looking for a director?
I mean, they are the kind of crypto, but like I love sports, and I think the way they're doing about betting is just extraordinary.
Absolutely. I think we have a whole debate on that. I actually believe that sports betting, even other stuff, shouldn't be considered betting. That's a whole different conversation.
Okay. You have to invite me back.
There's a skill. There's a whole different one there.
Yeah.
What is the one? If there's a one day in your life you could erase, or you have a regret, what would it be?
Oh, I went to a conference and missed my youngest daughter's play, and it still kills me.
Yeah, I've had that before. It's terrible, huh?
Dumb.
Yeah. Good. It's a good piece of advice, people.
Yeah.
What is the one book you recommend everybody reads?
Rigged by Ben Mesrick.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Well, it's about me.
Interesting. You also said it's like promoting your own.
That's awful. That's awful. I can't believe I just said that.
What is the one biggest risk you think the industry is facing now that we're not acknowledging, the crypto industry?
Crypto. I still think it's PR.
Yeah.
We have horrible PR.
I totally agree. Yeah, that's why we have shows like these, but it's absolutely crazy. We have there's no CEO of Bitcoin, huh? Like that's the thing. Like,
look, we've been real quick. No, it's coming up the 17th anniversary of the Satoshi White Paper. Yep. We've been an institutional asset class for only about 6-7 years, and we still, not we. When I say we, certain elements of crypto still will not acknowledge that when you're controlling people's value in assets, you have to act maturely, and you have to care. And the degen, not degen's a bad way, but some of the characteristics that people employ are actually emblematic of the worst elements of traditional capitalism, and we're trying to replace that. So it's getting smaller. It's getting smaller, which I like. It's getting smaller. And I'm not saying you can't be a degen, be fun, have fun, trade. By the way, meme coins, I have no issue with meme coins. Yeah. If you're an adult, trade whatever you want. I believe in culture coins. I think it's all real. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, though. Yeah. It's that
there's a sub-segment that is
it's getting smaller, but it
gives everybody a bad name.
It's the Lambo culture.
Yeah, I hate that.
That has to go.
We have a lot, unfortunately, in Dubai.
It has to go.
Crypto, the Palm crypto crowd. So
you can have fun and be crazy and be wild and have a good time and enjoy life and not be a jerk.
Lambo, the girls and stuff.
The way women are treated, that has to be like a cancer has to be excised.
Last question. That was John D'Agostino, the head of strategy at Coinbase Institutional. John, the last question, the traditional question, whoever comes to my podcast or my TV show, if you could have lunch or dinner with one person, dead or alive, lunch or dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Winston Churchill.
Oh, wow. Why is that?
I'd want to understand what really happened in those strategy sessions.
Those meetings, huh? Must have been.
Because I'm not an AI, so I can look him in the eye.
Yeah.
And I mean, just World War II. I mean, just I'm fascinated with his history, but I want to understand how much of it's real, and how much of it is just this has been built up to be this.
by the
'cause
victorious side.
How can a human being make those decisions with that degree of calmness? And I want to know how panicked he actually was.
Especially after a couple of whiskey and the cigars. I think that's probably, maybe that's what helped them,
Yeah.
John, thanks for being with us. Thank you everybody for listening to this special Future of Crypto Compliance series. And thank you especially to our friends at ACX Compliance that made the show possible. Thank you all, and see you all for the next episode. This episode was brought to you by ACX Compliance. Looking to set up operations in the UAE? ACX Compliance licensing team can help you with all your needs for your VARA or ADGM application and ongoing support. Thinking about the UAE? Think about ACX Compliance. acxcompliance.com, acxcompliance.com.